Good afternoon. It's Tuesday, May 24th, 2016. Welcome to the Senate Standing Committee on Finance. I'm Senator Catherine Young, the chair, and I would like to welcome Ranking Member Liz Krueger and our members who have joined us today. We have several nominations to consider and then several bills. And so let's start. First of all, we have, as members of the New York State Bridge Authority, Henry J. Stanton and Roger Higgins. Any questions, concerns? Okay, so Senator Marcelino moves the nominations of both nominees. Senator Valesky seconds. Any negative votes? Okay, they will advance forward then. Also, non-appearance members of the Rochester Genesee Regional Transportation Authority. We'll do them as a group also. William N. Faber, Richard D. Cosmeri, Donald E. Jeffries, and Kelly O'Connor. Any discussion? Okay. Moved by Senator Krueger, seconded by Senator Marcelino. Negative votes? Okay, these nominees will advance also. Also, as a member of the Capital District Transportation Authority, Denise A. Figueroa, excuse me. Discussion. Okay, Senator Kaminsky, would you like to nominate?
I'd be glad.
Okay, thank you. Senator Valesky, second. Any discussion? Okay, the person is advanced. And also as a member of the Central New York Regional Transportation Authority, Joseph A. Hardick. Senator Valesky would like to advance that. Any second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, the person will move forward also. So that brings us now to the bills that are being considered today. So we would like to start with Senate 833.
By Senator Robach, an act to amend the correction law, the penal law, and the executive law in relation to prohibiting level 3 sex offenders from living in college housing.
Discussion. Senator Marcelino, would you like to move the bill? Senator Valesky, second. Negative votes? Bill is reported. Next, Senate 1085 by Senator Marchione.
An act to amend the correction law in relation to requiring legislative approval for the closure of correctional facilities and institutions.
Discussion. Move the bill. Senator Krueger moves the bill. Senator Savino seconds. Negative votes? The bill is reported. Next, we have Senate 1165 by Senator Serrano.
An act to direct the New York State Department of Health to conduct a study on the high incidence of asthma in the borough of the Bronx in the city of New York and to prepare a remedial plan.
Move the bill. Moved by Senator Krueger, seconded by Senator Marcelino. Negative votes. The bill is reported. Next, we have Senate 1214A by Senator Marchione.
An act to amend the military law in relation to the issuance of a New York State Korean War Service Medal.
Senator Krueger moves. Senator Kaminsky seconds. Any discussion? Negative votes? The bill is reported. Next, we have Senate 1463 by Senator Kennedy.
An act to amend the highway law in relation to including part of Ridge Road in the city of Lackawanna as a state highway.
Discussion? Move the bill. Moved by Senator Krueger, seconded by Senator Marcelino. Negative votes. Bill is reported. Next, we have Senate 1507 by Senator Kennedy.
An act to amend the highway law in relation to designating South Park Avenue in the city of Lackawanna as a state highway.
Any discussion? Okay. Moved by Senator Krueger, seconded by Senator Valesky. Negative votes. Bill is reported. Next, Senate 1628B by Senator Boyle.
An act relating to making veterans organizations eligible for funding under the State and Municipal Facilities Program and to amend Chapter 55 of the laws of 2016, enacting the capital projects budget in relation to making technical corrections thereto.
Moved by Senator Savino, seconded by Senator Marcelino. Any discussion?
I will be a no vote on this bill. As I have in the past, I believe that the definition of a veterans aid organization needs to be much more tight before we open up any organization with the word veteran in it to be eligible to draw down on capital funds. which, because of the limited amount that is available, will actually potentially negatively impact the other programs that currently are eligible to receive these capital funds. There's apparently 3,800 organizations with veteran in the name, and there's $380 million for capital projects in the budget for these purposes. I just think that's too broad a definition to put into law. So I will remain a no vote.
Okay. Let me just, that you will be reported as a no. Any other negative votes? The bill is reported. Next, we have Senate 1656B by Senator Robach.
An act to amend the alcoholic beverage control law in relation to the sale of non-food, wine, or liquor supplies, accessories, and/or barware.
Moved by Senator Valesky, seconded by Senator Krueger. Any negative votes? Bill is reported. Next, we have Senate 1851 by Senator Little.
An act to amend the general obligations law in relation to the duties of skiers and ski area operators.
Discussion?
I think it's an excellent bill for protection of skiers, ensuring that we are becoming much more aware of the risks of traumatic brain injury from all kinds of activity, and I certainly don't want anyone to be discouraged from skiing, but allowing for and even requiring the use of helmets, I think, is a real step forward.
Thank you. So Senator Krueger moves the bill. Senator Marcelino seconds the bill. Any negative votes? The bill is reported. Next, we have Senate 1902 by Senator Bonasek.
An act to amend the social services law in relation to requiring investigation of all reports of child abuse made by a hospital or medical or law enforcement personnel.
Moved by Senator Parker, seconded by Senator Valesky. Any negative votes? Bill is reported. Senate 2064B by Senator Young.
An act to amend the executive law in relation to temporary detention of persons whose presumptive release, parole, conditional release, or post-release supervision alleged to have violated the terms of their release.
Discussion?
I am going to remain in the negative. I'm concerned that it may make it more difficult for people in custody to have access to their lawyers if they are so quickly moved out of local back into state prisons during the time that they are back in the court process.
Thank you for that. It's just the feeling is that this is an unfunded mandate on counties and that they are incurring exorbitant costs, and there are state facilities nearby that could house these particular individuals. So thank you very much for your input.
Thank you.
Any other? Senator Valesky would like to move the bill. Senator Marcelino would like to second. So negative votes. Senator Krueger will be a negative. Anyone else?
I think I have some additional that I will submit.
The bill is reported. Next, we have Senate Bills 2947A by Senator Ritchie.
An act to amend the education law in relation to expedited licensing by certain military spouses.
Move the bill.
Moved by Senator Parker, seconded by Senator Kaminsky. Negative votes. Bill is reported. Next, we have Senate 3019 by Senator Young.
An act to amend the social services law in relation to creating incentives for counties to investigate and prosecute Medicaid fraud.
Discussion? Okay. Senator Savino moves. Senator Valesky seconds. Negative votes. Bill is reported. Next, Senate 3083 by Senator Young.
An act to amend the criminal procedure law in relation to the use of video monitoring equipment to conduct arraignments and to repeal Article 185 of such law relating thereto.
This is similar to some other things that we've done. I think it's a very good bill. So, any discussion?
I am going to vote no because I've been informed that it would be direct contravention of the Harrell-Haring consent order, ensuring that counsel actually appeared during these arraignments, and that, as has been explained to me, while it's intended to be a financial savings, because of the other steps that would be needed to ensure legal representation in video arrangements, it can actually cost the court system more. So I'll be voting no.
Right. OCA does say that they expect no fiscal impact to OCA, and so I believe, again, that this is a good bill, so any other discussion? Senator Little would like to move, Senator Marcelino second. Negative votes besides Senator Krueger?
I have a few others.
Okay. Next, we have Senate 3223A by Senator Carlucci.
An act to amend the correction law, the executive law, and the penal law in relation to sex offenders' notice of residency requirements.
Discussion? Okay. Senator Valesky moves, Senator Marcelino seconds. Negative votes. Bills reported. Next, we have Senate 3386 by Senator Ransenhofer.
An act to amend the public authorities law in relation to exempting the Rochester Genesee Regional Transportation Authority from bond issuance charges.
Discussion? Senator Valesky moves, Senator Savino seconds. Negative votes. Bills reported. Senate 3459 by Senator Golden.
An act to amend the social services law in relation to requiring child protective services to document home visits with photographs.
Okay, Senator Savino moves the bill, and Senator Little seconds.
I would no vote on this bill. I voted consistently no on this. In fact, when I chaired the Children and Families Committee, I arranged a meeting for Senator Golden with the former Commissioner of ACS. I understand his intent is related to a horrific case in Florida where children who were in foster care were beaten and there was a death involved in the case because it turned out that the caseworkers were not actually making home visits and contacts. Out of that, he felt that if there was some photographic record of that interaction, that would prove that they had actually made the case. I don't object to foster care, but on the child protective services workers, it is impossible for a CPS worker to actually do that. I tried to explain to him why it's going to be problematic, because when you get a complaint of abuse or neglect, and you're assigned a case and you knock on the door, you have no idea who these people are. You've never seen them before in your life. And by the way, they don't have to let you in their house. They're not obligated to participate in their own investigation. So first you have to engage them, you have to get their trust, they have to let you in the house, but even still, if you don't know who those children are, you have no idea until you've engaged in a relationship with them. So to begin that interaction, which is already contentious, because you're telling them they've been the subject of abuse and neglect, and now taking out a camera and saying, line your children up, and I'm going to take a picture, is completely not good case for practice. It's completely impractical. So I'm going to continue to vote no. I think if he narrowed it down to just foster care cases, because those are no children, there's a record, they're in the custody of the Commissioner of Social Services, we know who those children are, I would support that. But the CPS investigation is still using that, so I'm going to continue to be in favor.
Thank you, Senator Savino. This bill actually was introduced in response to several cases of horrific child abuse, and the caseworkers were not making the home visits that they represented that they were. So this is trying to get at that problem, but certainly understand the concerns. So,
And again, if it was restricted just to children already in placement, I would have a different opinion. This is the initial investigation of the CPS work that I
Can I ask the Senator Savino a question?
sure.
So my notes also show there's a similar but different bill, S753 by Senator Kennedy. Would you have the same objections to that?
If it also applies to CPS
Can we
investigation.
close the door, please?
Okay.
Guaranteeing that workers make contact with the children they're responsible for, that are in their caseload, is absolutely critical. We need to know where these kids are. These initial contacts, though, you don't know who they are. So you're not really going to accomplish anything other than get another element of an adversarial relationship with what is already a tense environment. Good, I'm just obtrusive. You still don't know who they are, though. They line the children up. How do you know that that is the child that's the subject of the report that they tell you that is? You don't know.
Well, thank you for that. Any other negative votes? Okay, the bill's reported. Next, we have Senate 4185B by Senator Parker.
An act to amend the social services law in relation to establishing topical oxygen wound therapy as a Medicaid benefit.
Discussion? Senator Valesky moves, Senator Little seconds. Negative votes. Senator Parker, your bill is reported. Next, we have Senate 4367 by Senator Bonasek.
An act to amend the racing, pari-mutuel wagering, and breeding law in relation to payments in support of racing.
Discussion. So moved by Senator Savino, seconded by Senator Marcelino. Negative votes. Bill is reported. Senate 5776 by Senator Gillespie.
An act to amend the not-for-profit corporation law in relation to authorizing land banks to access real property prior to acquisition of the property and to the liabilities and exemptions from liability of land banks with relation to the acquisition, ownership of vacant, abandoned, or tax-delinquent real property.
Yes.
Senator Valesky, may I ask you a question about your bill?
Yeah, and I don't have it here in front of me.
Okay. That's okay, you can ask that. So as I understand it, it's so that land banks can go inspect property and take ownership of property for sell or other purposes, and it would exempt the land bank from the environmental liability that might be found on the underlying land, but whoever they give or sell that land to, liability would go to them. So we're not ending liability for environmental problems, we're just exempting the land bank from that process. Did I read that bill correct?
Yes.
I don't have a problem with this bill. Thank you.
So they're doing due diligence, my understanding, into the environmental condition of such parcel prior to ownership. So they're looking at...
I just didn't want liability to disappear when we determined there was a problem, just as whose liability it will be.
So Senator Parker moves, Senator Little seconds, negative votes, the bill is reported. Next we have Senate 6249 by Senator Ort.
An act to amend the tax law in relation to establishing a credit for geothermal energy systems.
Discussion moved by Senator Parker, seconded by Senator Kaminsky. Negative votes, bill is reported. Next we have Senate 6369 by Senator Klein.
An act to amend the tax law and the insurance law in relation to credits for premiums paid for long-term care insurance policies.
Senator Parker moves the bill, seconded by Senator Valesky. Negative votes. Bill is reported. Next, we have Senate 6430A by Senator Hannan.
An act to amend the public health law and the executive law in relation to the reporting, processing, and secure transport of sexual offense evidence kits.
Discussion. Senator Krueger moves. Senator Little seconds. Negative votes. Bill is reported. Next, 6433, the next bill by Senator Marchione is being held at request of the sponsor. So that moves us to Senate 6622 by Senator Ort.
An act to amend the mental hygiene law in relation to prohibiting fees to be charged to agencies for copies of certain clinical records.
Senator Little moves, Senator Marcelino seconds, negative votes. The bill is reported. Next we have Senate 6799 by Senator Hannan.
An act to amend the local finance law in relation to authorizing the town of Hempstead, County of Nassau to amortize the cost of payments to employees upon separation of service from the town.
Senator Marcelino moves, Senator Little seconds, negative votes. Bills reported. Next, 6920 by Senator Murphy.
An act to amend the executive law in relation to designating Charles Lake, Lost Lake, Putnam Lake, and Tenetta Lake as inland waterways for purposes of waterfront revitalization.
Discussion. Senator Little moves, Senator Valesky seconds, negative votes. Bills reported. Next, 7004 by Senator Murphy.
An act to amend the executive law in relation to designating Glencoma Lake, Lincolndale Lake, McGregor Lake, Mahopac Lake, Secor Lake, Chinorak Lake, Tea Kettle, Spout Lake, Wixon Lake, Muscoot River as inland waterways for purposes of waterfront revitalization.
You have a lot of lakes down there, don't they?
Well, I was going to say, I've been here 14 years. Eventually, all lakes and rivers are going to be included in this. Maybe we should just do one bill saying everything that's not listed.
I like that. There are actually 3,300 lakes in New York State.
There you go.
So Senator Savino moves, Senator Little seconds, negative votes. Bills reported. Next, we have Senate 7069 by Senator Lanza.
An act to amend the executive law and the criminal procedure law in relation to the definition of designated offender.
Senator Savino moves, Senator Valesky seconds, negative votes. Bills reported. Senate 7190 by Senator Bonsick.
An act to amend the racing, pari-mutuel wagering, and breeding law in relation to improvement of operations in thoroughbred racing.
Senator Marcelino moves, Senator Little seconds, negative votes. Bills reported. And finally, we have Senate 7349 by Senator Valesky.
An act to amend the executive law in relation to designating September 11th of each year as a day of commemoration known as Emergency Responders Appreciation Day.
It's moved by Senator Parker, seconded by Senator Savino. It's a good bill. Negative votes. Bills reported. That ends the Senate Finance Committee meeting today, and I want to thank all the members for joining us.
Also, I'm going to join my